College basketball taking more of a center stage now with the college football regular season and championship Sunday over. A look at the new top 25 and 1 rankings from Gary Parrish. SEC having a great start to the season. Preseason AP number 1 Kansas has fallen to 10 in Gary's poll and the AP poll after that 7-0 start. They've lost back-to-back games, both on the road, Creighton and Missouri. And they have a matchup with a Final Four team from last season coming up this weekend against NC State. Their leading scorer is Hunter Dickinson, and he joins us each and every week here on CBS Sports HQ to talk hoops. Let's start with your Jayhawks. You've said the word right now is frustration. Why does that word define how you guys are feeling in that locker room?
I'd say frustration just because I think the team knows, we're better than what we're playing right now. Obviously, going into Creighton and going into Missouri are two really hostile arenas and games that we needed to be prepared for. And I just think we didn't come ready to play. I think, definitely in the Creighton game, I think we missed a lot of shots that normally we make. And I think, especially with the new guys, we're not used to playing on the road in those hostile environments where teams are really, coming for, Kansas Jayhawks. And I think that's kind of what we've been preaching. And I think the locker room's really starting to, come together, and we're looking for solutions. I think this week's been really great for us. The coaching staff, players have all been really locked in and just trying to get 1% better and trying to make sure these pieces fit together because, heading into the Big 12 play.
Hunter Dickinson is joining us from Kansas, but when we put what your title is down at the bottom of the screen, we don't say Kansas great, Kansas leading scorer. It's CBS Sports college basketball analyst, because you're here to talk about all things college basketball. And the biggest game tonight is a rivalry game between number 3 Iowa State and the Iowa Hawkeyes, who you are familiar with from your time in the Big Ten with Michigan. That's a game that Iowa State hasn't won in Iowa City in 10 years. What do you see in the Cy-Hawk matchup tonight, Hunter?
I think this is one of the greatest rivalries in college basketball. I know I came out with my top 5, and that's coming up soon, but this rivalry is really good. I know a lot of people in Iowa take this really seriously, and I think it's two really good teams. You got Coach TJ and Coach Fran McCaffrey, two of the best coaches in college basketball. Iowa State's obviously led by Lipsey, who is one of the best guards in the country. I think, a top 5 defender in the country. But they also got Gilbert and Jones, who are 2 high-level scorers. Iowa's led by Payne Sanford, Freeman, and Dix, who, is a really good trio. I know, I played against Sanford at my time at Michigan, and, he's a prolific scorer, really good three-point threat. So I think this will be kind of a test of a really good defense versus a really high-powered offense. So we'll see which one gives in this matchup.
Iowa State a 6.5-point favorite in that game. You've got a home and home with Iowa State coming up this season. You're going to see them at least twice, maybe then again in the conference tournament, maybe then again in the big tournament. But we asked you for your top rivalry games. Can you run through those for us? Yeah,
I think, if I'm trying to be unbiased, I think the best rivalry in college basketball has got to be Duke-UNC. I mean, that's probably, the most historic matchup. There's so much. If you think Duke-UNC, you think of Austin Rivers, you think Christian Laettner, big-time players making big-time plays in those games. And then Kansas-Missouri, I mean, you saw it last weekend with, how we played. I think, not a lot of people really realize how much hatred is with Kansas-Missouri, it goes back to the Civil War days. And then obviously Michigan State, I'm showing a little bit of bias with that. I mean, that interstate rivalry is super big amongst basketball fans, especially in Michigan. In my time in the Big Ten, I was able to realize how big Purdue and Indiana was. If you look on Twitter, those 2 schools are always at it. And then lastly, I think what I have on there, I think it was Kentucky, Louisville. Kentucky and Louisville, those are 2 of the most historic basketball programs of all time. And I think, those 5 is definitely a solid list. But if I had a 6th, I would say Iowa State.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What about Kansas and Iowa State? I know Kansas has a bunch of different rivals. You mentioned Missouri. Iowa State would put Kansas at the top, and then there'd be a drop down to Iowa.
Kansas definitely does have a lot of rivals. I learned that Creighton clearly dislikes us a lot in terms of, a rivalry. But, when you're a blue blood and you've had so much success, it just makes for a lot of teams going to hunt for you. And, that's what we're experiencing now at Kansas with a lot of the new guys. They're realizing, how much they have a target on their back when they play for Kansas. And so, yeah, we definitely do have a lot of rivals. We might not have a lot of rivals, but a lot of people call us a rival.
Everybody's claiming Kansas. It's just how it is. You get everybody's best shot. That's the way it goes at a blue blood like that. You guys are going to have a trip to BYU coming up this season. What did you think when you saw the news that the #1 college basketball recruit, A.J. DeBansta, is going to BYU over blue bloods like, Kansas, North Carolina, and all that?
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was too surprising. I think if you looked at a lot of recruiting sites and a lot of recruiting analysts, I think they had him pinned to BYU for a while now. I think it makes a lot of sense. He plays high school basketball there. Obviously, I think it's pretty well known that they've been able to, come up with a good NIL number for him, which has a lot to do with college basketball nowadays. But I think a big reason why is because they have Coach Young there, who was just on the Suns coaching staff. And, for a guy like AJ, who is probably the projected #1 pick in the draft when he comes out for next year, I think that'll be huge for him to be able to develop again under a head coach who coached guys like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and be able to have that development, to be able to take that next step to NBA, I think was a huge factor in his decision.
There was news this week, Hunter, that the NCAA tournament is likely to expand from 68 to 72, potentially even 76. I know you guys don't really hang around the bubble very much at Kansas, so it might not affect you too much, but what do you think of the expansion that's likely coming soon?
Yeah, I think this is a terrible decision. I am very against this. If you're going to keep expanding, I feel like when are you going to stop and where are you going to draw the line? I think it's perfect right now, and I think if you were to ask 90% of the country, I think they would agree that the tournament it's perfect as it is. I don't think the majority wants it to expand, and I think they're right. I think at some point you got to make it a little bit hard to get in the tournament because it should be a special thing. And I don't think if you keep expanding, I don't know where you draw the line. So I'd like to keep it where it is.
Yeah, and then you get teams that are 6 and 12 in conference play that are getting to the NCAA tournament. They're talking about expanding the college football playoff on the football side as well. We've got our first 12-team bracket this year, and it already sounds like things might go to 14 in a couple years. But when you look at the way the bracket lays out right now, Hunter, can you take us through how you see this thing playing out?
Yes. For me, I definitely think that in the matchup with Ohio State and Tennessee, I think Tennessee is going to win that matchup. I do like Texas beating Clemson. I like Penn State beating SMU, and I like the upset. I had to pick one upset. I had Indiana over Notre Dame. And so after those matchups, I just see Oregon as the best team in the country, and I see Georgia as the second best team in the country. I think eventually those teams will match up, and Oregon's undefeated. They've had some close games against Ohio State and against Penn State, but I just think they're the best team in the country, best offense in the country. I think it'll be hard to beat them.
Hunter Dickinson doing a little bit of everything for us today, picking college football, talking about NCAA tournament expansion in basketball. Doing a good job. Thank you so much, Hunter. Hey, best of luck this weekend against NC State as well.
Thank you, Chris.
Hunter Dickinson with us on CBS Sports HQ, as we've got a big one on CBS this Saturday, noon Eastern. Says swap out some college football all over the board for college basketball at noon, and then of course we got Army-Navy on the football side as well. But A&M Purdue, noon Eastern on CBS and Paramount Plus, and the Indy Classic.